Talk about the fact that we have in South Carolina and all over this country tens of millions of workers working for starvation wages? Did he talk about a corrupt political system in which billionaires today can start a super PAC? And I guess you have some familiarity with super PACs. They help fund your campaign. Who can spend unlimited amounts of money to elect candidates. You have the absurd situation where super PACs frequently spend more money than the candidates themselves.
Well, I'll be glad to speak to my campaign. I raised $112 million. The average donation was about $40.
That was Bernie Sanders calling out the corruption of Senator Lindsey Graham, who lied in that video and made it seem as though most of his campaign donations came from small dollar donors. Reality indicates that what he says couldn't be further from the truth, and I have the receipts to provide evidence for the point that I'm trying to make here. In fact, let's go to this quick headline from Axios. This is from October of 2020, when Lindsey Graham was running for re-election. GOP super PAC will spend $10 million to help Lindsey Graham in South Carolina. But we should get to the nitty gritty. Let's get to the actual numbers here. And also, just want to give a round of applause to Bernie Sanders for doing what he should do on a regular basis, which is play hardball with his political opponents and call out their corruption. Now, to get to some specifics here, Idaho's Frank Vandersloot, worth an estimated $3.5 billion, contributed $300,000 to a pro-Graham super PAC named Security is Strength. Florida's Laura Perlmutter, the wife of Marvel Comics king Ike Perlmutter, donated $250,000. Sandwich tycoon Jimmy John Leotard, also of Florida, gave $150,000. These don't really seem like small dollar donors to me, Cenk. I don't know, I could be wrong. You also have Massachusetts shoe baron, sounds like a fun guy, Jim Davis of New Balance, who contributed $100,000. But the list goes on and on. One more graphic for you, just to really drive home the point that someone like Lindsey Graham is not supported by grassroots efforts of fundraising. In all, 8 billionaires and their spouses gave about $1.1 million to the group during the first 2 weeks of October of 2020 alone. At least 4 million more came from so-called dark money groups, which can funnel money into the political system without disclosing their donors.
Yeah, so I did the math on it. Like the 10 million, it's just a little bit higher than $40.
A little bit
higher.
Tiny.
And then I did more math, 300,000 also higher than $40. 200. He says on average. No, he's doing two different tricks here. I guarantee you that he's quoting only from the bucket of his small donors and completely leaving out the large donors. And he knows, this is mainly airing on Fox. And by the way, credit to Fox for airing it. It's an interesting debate. But it's mainly airing on Fox. They'll believe me. I'll just lie. It's no big deal. And he's not counting the super PACs. But Bernie was mainly addressing the super PACs. So you have your own campaign that's already corrupt enough. You collect tons of cash from big donors. And then the super PACs come in on top and layer in this extra layer of corruption. And look at our system. I mean, our oligarchs our system is hilarious. Look at the shoe oligarch and the sandwich oligarch and who's the guy? The one thing that I like, I was so bummed. Marvel Comics, and then he comes in and then it chips in. I mean, look, it's just an open auction. So I want to give Bernie a ton of credit here because we've asked him to be more aggressive with his colleagues, and here he is. That was really aggressive, wonderful, honest, right? And to call it what it is, corruption, and he's doing both here. Now, of course, I want him to do it with fellow Democrats too.
Yes.
And that's a bridge too far for him. But hey, I'll take it because nobody even does it with Republicans, so it's a good start.
It is a good start. Now, he deserves credit in how he handled the issue of corruption because there's no question that Lindsey Graham and other politicians like him are certainly corrupt. But one thing that was really noticeable during this debate was how much Lindsey Graham focused on two issues, okay? Inflation and crime. So I want to talk about inflation because he kept talking about what a lot of Americans are suffering with right now, which is high gas prices. You go to the pump, the national average is around $5 now. In California, we always pay $1.50 more because of the gas tax that we've implemented here, which I think should be suspended during this difficult time because working families are struggling, to be honest. Now, with that said though, I don't think that Bernie Sanders did a good enough job in dismantling the talking points coming from Lindsey Graham, because fact of the matter is, the United States is the top oil and gas producing country in the world. We're #1 in our production of oil and gas. Lindsey Graham doesn't want you to know that though. Republicans don't want you to know that though, because the point that they try to make is it's Joe Biden's fault, it's the Democrats' fault. They're withholding oil and gas production, which just is not true. And so let's go to this next video, because this is where Bernie tries to set the record straight on the issue. You tell me what you think about how he handled it.
Well, let's talk about gas prices, because you're right. They are outrageously high in Vermont. They're now filled up the other day, $5.05 a gallon. Meanwhile, the major oil companies made $35 billion in profit in the first quarter of this year. And at the end of the year, it is estimated they're going to give $88 billion in stock buybacks to their wealthy shareholders. So I do think we have to do something about the outrageously high price of gas. I think the president should bring the major oil companies in and tell them we're going to have a windfall profits tax on what they're doing in order to stop them from ripping off the American people.
The United States is the top oil and gas producing country in the world. There is no evidence to back the claim that Democrats are stopping the production of oil and gas. And also, these are multinational corporations. These are not nationalized. This is not a nationalized industry. Biden doesn't have control over oil and gas prices. I just feel like the message needs to be simpler, so people understand there is no evidence indicating that we're not producing enough oil and gas. That's all I have to say about that.
No, so Anna, your answer is great, but I didn't think his answer was terrible.
It was good in that, yes, oil and gas industry greed is definitely part of the answer. But you have to first start by mentioning that we produce more oil and gas than any other country in the world.
Yeah, and so that's definitely not the issue, and it goes to the whole world market, as Anna explained. But I want to touch on a couple other things. So first of all, here in California, we think Vermont's lucky. It's like $7 in the gas station across the street from me. Yeah, very literally. And so now, but TYT Investigates did a story about this that is actually amazing and tells you that there actually is something that people can do. And in fact, Ro Khanna has started to work on it. Ro Khanna often works with Bernie Sanders in Congress about these issues, and we did a follow-up story on that, and you could find it on tyt.com, both of those stories. And so what does it say? It says that there's actually a loophole that was put into the Dodd-Frank bill that allows the bankers to speculate on oil and gas prices, and that's a huge part of the reason why the prices are actually have been driven up. It's not so much the market forces as much as it is the extra swaps and derivatives gambling that the bankers are doing on top. So now, Trump refused to close, Obama tried to close the loophole at the end of his term. He found it very late, conveniently. They acted on it very late, so I think he deserves blame for that, to be honest. Trump, of course, instantly said, no regulations, no. Make sure you let the bankers gamble on anything they like, even if it drives up prices. So it's mainly on Trump for not doing that for 4 years. But here we are in the Biden administration, they still haven't closed the loophole. You know why? Because corporate politicians love bankers. They love taking money from them. They love taking money from oil and gas industry, etc. So here we are with giant gas prices. So the one thing that's true that Biden could do, Lindsey Graham would never want him to do, which is regulate the bankers. Right. If you close that loophole and they couldn't gamble it on anymore, prices would definitely drop. But Lindsey Graham doesn't want any part of that because they're his donors. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.